What happens at this time next week? What are we going to find out in the next week plus about Bill's future?
So I'm obviously, Beetle, I wish I knew the answer, right? So I think what generally happens, and if this is how it's happened the last 23 years, is season ends, and usually the ownership and Belichick meet, talk about where things went wrong during the season, what would be the roadmap ahead.
Yep.
And so you'd think that's going to happen, right? Like that there's going to be some meeting there, because that's generally the way it's gone over the prior 23 years. And then I think I've always been of the mindset, and it's my opinion, it's not something I know for sure, that however that meeting goes is going to inform the Crafts on how they're moving forward. And they might already have their mind made up, and there might be nothing that can happen that changes it. But I believe from watching them over the years that they like to go through that process before they make any final decision or before they make it official, whatever their decision is.
Is there more urgency to have that meeting right away if they have their minds leaning in the direction of moving on?
Right away to me is within that week,
Okay.
the week of the season ending.
All right.
So I think there's a lot of you want to get the players on their way, have exit meeting with the players. Hey, here's what we want to have you work on in the off season. We'll see you so square away the players, square away, support staff, whatever. Get that all done, and then so however long that takes, 2 days, 3 days, within the week would be what I would say. You want to have that meeting. You agree with that, Zoe, or is that?
I think about this too. There's a way to get from football up to the owner's office to where they do have the meeting in sort of a conference room right next door. And there's multiple people you have to pass on the way up, and it's like, who's going to be looking around the corner like Jerry Maguire leaving with the fish? Who's coming with me? Like the whispering that's been going on. Oh, he's doing the walk. He's going up for the meeting. What's going to happen? What's the mood like when he leaves the meeting? I wouldn't want to be in that hallway.
Have you heard anything along these lines of the thing that Zoe's talking about that I think has been reported by, I don't know who. I'd have to go back.
What is it?
That maybe in recent weeks there's been some tacit admissions of Bill knowing his job security is not at its best right now. That maybe some of the other coaches on the staff
Callahan
sensed.
had that.
Is that it was?
Yeah.
Andrew Callahan, thank you. Reporting that there are assistants on the staff that have gotten a sense from Bill that he knows he could be in trouble.
So I think,
which is obvious. Of course, he's obviously in trouble.
Well,
whether or not he makes it or not is to be figured out. But any coach with that record right now would be thinking to themselves, I may not survive this, because a lot of coaches don't. Most don't.
So I wouldn't doubt anything Andrew reports. He's really good, at what he does. I think what would surprise me is if Bill Belichick was having conversations like, let's say I'm Bill, and this is
I didn't say that. I said I feel it's swaying more the other way that he's here,
and
I
was
think that movement. I don't
Gotcha.
know. We're
Gotcha.
second guessing. If it's definitive that he's gone.
Gotcha.
Because I go back to the McDaniel stuff, Super Bowl week. Hey, I'm leaving, but I get it. Yeah, but let's go with this 3rd and 12 for one more
exactly.
time.
He's so blind.
Vision.
Exactly.
The horse blinders on.
That's right.
That it's Jets week.
So it would surprise me if he was talking to assistants about, hey, I think I'm in trouble.
Who's the guy who went to Syracuse?
Ross Douglas.
Ross Douglas. So there's sort of a pecking order, or as to one guy leaves, who steps up? Well, what do I do with my house?
Yeah.
If I got a house payment coming up, do I have to make decisions for my family, school year? There's families that are affected by it all. So I would understand staffing wanting to have a sort of an idea of stability.
But I don't think any assistant would go up to Bill and say, I just that's not the way it works.
No, and I didn't hear anything like that.
And I have an example. I don't know if this has ever come up, but I've obviously been trying to study up on this and be as informed as possible. This idea that it's so obvious to move on from him, I'm going to give you a counterpoint from the NFL that I think is very applicable today. So Baltimore Ravens in 2015 were 5-11. Then in 2016, if I have it right off the top of my head, they were 8-8. And then in 2017, and this is John Harbaugh, who's, I believe, the third longest tenured head coach in the league right now.
Okay.
Then in 2017, they were 9-7 and missed the playoffs because they fell apart on a 4th and 12 play late in their last game.
That was a year he was going for it from 4th down all the time, but I got my players' backs.
Those 3 straight years for the Ravens, for a coach that had led the team to the Super Bowl, one of their most successful coaches ever, and they were calling for his job down in Baltimore. Not everyone, and the owner later acknowledged, yep, I thought about firing him. And he didn't, and I would say that's worked out pretty well for him. I believe they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. Yeah. I believe they're probably the team no one wants to play right now. So as we talk about this...
And they were 9-7 the year you considered firing him?
They were 9-7, collapsed, Beetle. So 3 straight years, and he was 40-40.
I'm just going to tell you that if the Patriots are 9-7 right now, no one's considering firing Bill. He's not 9-7.
But
different standard.
He's lucky to have the 4 wins he's got at this point.
Well, so Beetle, I sort of look at it and say you can say he's lucky, but if they had better quarterback play, like let's say they had what Joe Flacco gave the Browns, like maybe it's totally different. Maybe it's double wins. Like
I guess he should have signed Joe Flacco then.
He's going to kill the quarterback.
I'm just saying, I'm not. I know you're taking the 9-7 and comparing it to this year. I want to say the totality of those 3 years, and that he was 40-40 at that point over a stretch in time. That's why they were calling for his job. Like, we can move the numbers around. That to me is the flip side of those who say it's over, Bill's done, and you know what? You can make a strong case for that. It's time for a fresh start. Yeah. I get it. That's the flip side right there. Sometimes it's always easier to say, you know, move on to the next guy, and then you go to the next guy, and you're 0-4 in September, and you say, oh, geez, I thought it was a fresh start was good. Like, this is a huge decision. You got to measure out. Moving on from Bill Belichick.
He's a big film guy, so, like, he doesn't forget certain aspects of it, like, especially the mistakes, like, when we do some of those breakdowns and that. Like, if you're going into this meeting at year end and you're saying, all right, tell me why you think you should stay. And he pulls up all the one-score games that we lost by, and then here's mistake number 1, here's 2, here's 3. We don't coach it this way. Look how open this guy is. Look how open this guy is. Look how open this guy is. Look at this throw. Look at this throw. Look at this throw. That changes the outcome.
Sorry, so McCone wants Bill back. Yeah. Zoe now wants Bill. Zoe is not firing Bill. And it sounds like you're keeping Bill too.
So I would keep Bill.
Okay.
But I want to say this. But I want to say this. What I think Zoe in that
I'm
meeting,
saying would help. Not as it continues here.
Yeah.
Not all systems go and he has full control over it.
Zoe, I think what you said with the clicker there, I think it can't just be that. I think it needs to be.
No, but that's part of it.
I agree, but I think it needs to be
one thing.
Because if I'm ownership, I'm looking at it and saying, well, I know you're not coaching it that way, Bill, but what about the personnel? And that's why I think what Bill needs to do, in my view, is go in there and say, look, I have not made great decisions offensively the last 2 years from when we were the number 1 seed in the AFC in December of 2021. Let's not forget that.
Week 14, I was there.
All right, number 1 seed. About 2 years ago in the AFC. I have not made great decisions. I want to approach this offseason like I did going from 2006 to 2007 when I went after Moss, Welker, Stalwart. That's how I'm going to attack the offense. I'm going to build this offensive line. We'll figure it out at quarterback. That's what I want to hear if I'm ownership. And if I hear that and I'm ownership, Beetle, that's not moving you? You're not.
Why didn't you do it last offseason?
Because I screwed up. Because I'm a human being. Okay. I messed up.
Funny you bring up 2 years ago. You go back to that.
That doesn't move 14. You, Beetle? Like, I can't sell you on that?
No, because I don't know that he can get all those things done. That to me is promising things that you don't know you could do. I'm going to get a quarterback. I'm going to get an offensive line. I'm going to get all kinds of talent at receiver. Well, why doesn't anybody? Everybody should just do that when they, have a bad year. It's a multi-year process. They're not a year away from competing. They're now they've set themselves back with this roster years, not months, years. They can't fix it all in one offseason. It is going to now take multiple years of building methodically to get back to where they want to be. And I don't think Bill's got 5 more years in him. I don't. I think this is – can he still coach? Yes, of course he can still coach to some degree. Is he the same coach he was 5 years ago, 10 years ago? No, I don't think he is. But this is marking a moment in time that makes sense for a change to happen. It's not just about like make a change for the sake of making a change. I think for a lot of reasons, this lines up for the time to make that change.
Because of the high pick?
Because you're going to have a high pick, and you're going to want, if that is a quarterback, some stability with that pick and his coach moving forward.
So who's your next coach, Beetle?
I'm willing to, I've admitted that I'm willing to accept one of the in-house guys. Gerard Mayo, if it's the case. Bill O'Brien, if it's the case. Because that will come with what I think is most important here, a new leader on the roster, meaning new GM. Okay, Macro's got to go with Bill. Bye. Clean him out.
Interesting. If O'Brien gets elevated to head coach, would McDaniels come back and be coordinator under him?
Fine. Go ahead.
Okay, but you bring up that Week 14 game 2 years ago. That feels like it was 5 years ago. When you talk about, like, that's the point really where it all fell apart. We were 9-4, going into Indy, coming off the bye. Remember the bitching that week that took place about not enough time off?
Yeah.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Like, you're going for it, and there were players complaining about not enough free time on the bye week. And it all went to hell after that. And it's been a downward spiral since then.
Just talking to people around the league, they say, look, if you're going to move on from Bill Belichick, you want to feel some level of certainty that whoever you put in there is going to be an upgrade. You feel that? You feel that strongly about it, Beetle, that it's going to be an upgrade? Like, to me, that's where you really measure this out, and man, that's hard. That's hard for me.
The roster control is the motivating factor. It's not about the in-game coaching necessarily, although that in-game coaching hasn't done them any good the last couple of years. It's been in decline. But the main factor here is that Bill is not going to give up control of that roster. Even if there's more collaboration, I don't think it's going to make a big enough difference if he's still the guy who controls the team. So that's one of the big things. This roster stinks on offense. It smells. And it was built by him. And so I think now it's the time. You're going to draft another quarterback. You're going to have a high pick. You're going to make important picks this draft. And his drafts have not been good. This is the time to make that change.